Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Savannah Playford, the Director of Youth Ministry at Dixon United Methodist Church. Whenever you are watching this, welcome to today's daily devotion. As some of you know, I am a children's behavior therapist, and I specifically work with kids on the autism spectrum. If you have ever spent any time interacting with an individual on the spectrum, or really just kids in general, you know that they say the darndest things. Well, this past week at work, I was working with a client and we were playing in our big sensory gym, which is basically a giant playroom with a lot of fun stuff. We were going through our usual routine of dumping out a bucket of superhero and supervillain toys and setting up to have the biggest superhero supervillain fight you can imagine. So we were setting up our toys and placed them around the room. We had a lot of fun playing. Well, then our timer went off and it was time for us to go back to our clinic room to do some more lessons and to learn some more things. So I told my client, okay, pick up all your toys, and we picked up all the toys and put them back in this bucket that is twice as big as he is, but we put it back in the bucket and we started to walk down the hallway back to our room. And my client began shaking the bucket, saying, "Oh no, I lost one of my superheroes." And I said, "Come on, buddy, no you didn't. We picked all of them up, I promise." And over, he kept telling me how we needed to go back because somebody was missing from his bucket. So of course, we walked back to the sensory room, dumped out every superhero and supervillain in his bucket, and we sorted through them until we realized he was in fact missing one of his supervillains. And of course, I was trying to reassure him that things would be okay, but we did need to go get some work done. And he said, "Well, I can't go. I can't leave my supervillain behind. He's one of my favorites." And I, of course, said, "Well, it's okay. We can come back and find it later. He's just a bad guy. You don't really need him anyway." And my client said to me, "Well, even bad guys need saving too. I'm not going home and I'm not going back to do our work until I find this supervillain." So of course we searched and we searched and we searched and we finally found his favorite supervillain. At the time, I was really irritated, but looking back, it reminds me of a story in the Bible that comes from Luke 15 verses 1 through 7. This is what it says. All the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around Jesus to listen to him. The Pharisees and the legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Jesus told them this parable. "Suppose someone among you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Wouldn't he leave the other 99 in the pasture and search for the lost one until he finds it? And when he finds it, he is thrilled and places it on his shoulders. When he arrives home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors and says to them, 'Celebrate with me because I have found my lost sheep.' In the same way, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who changes both heart and life than over 99 righteous people who have had no need to change their heart and their lives." In the story, the sheep was lost. In some translations, the word lost also says to perish. So in other words, the sheep was in great danger, headed for destruction, and definitely needed some help. So the shepherd in the story didn't stop until his mission had been completed of finding that one sheep. Just like my client did not stop his mission until we found that one last supervillain. And then, in the story, when the good shepherd did find that sheep, he saved it and he brought it back home exactly where it belongs. Very similarly to when my client found his favorite supervillain and put it back in his bucket. But you see, the lost and the found is kind of our story too. God knows whether people are saved or lost. He knows the condition of every lost soul, and he has devised a plan to do something about it. Even bad guys need saving in God's eyes. So ask yourself, are you lost? Do you need to be found? Do you want to be found? Or who do you know that is lost, that you can lead back to the sacred space?